This episode is brought to you by Google. Innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. There are hundreds of thousands of skilled trades roles across the U.S. waiting to be filled. To help close this gap, Google is expanding its skilled trade support to help train more than 300,000 American workers across more than 20 states. This is a new era of American innovation. Learn more at grow.google/skilled trades.
I was never as mad as I thought I was. I had to work so hard to hold that grudge. I ran my horses to their death. I watched them take their last breath. Mercy, mercy, I'm sick of my war. Won't do me like you done before. I keep this pain. Shame that the games we play have pretty names.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. It is Jay Scott, and it is the Hook Rocks, the ultimate rock community podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. Appreciate you stopping by, and please remember to leave us a review at the end of the episode. Let us know what you think and give us your feedback. Reviews are very important to podcasts like this show. So please, we appreciate the time and the feedback if you so choose to leave a review. We are part of the Pantheon Podcast Network, the official podcast network of Metallica. So check out Metallica's podcast on our platform. You can find Pantheon Podcasts at pantheonpodcast.com, as well as on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Pantheon Pods. And you can do the same with the Hook Rocks on all three of those platforms. And don't forget to set your app wherever you like, subscribe, or follow the podcast so you can get the latest episodes right to your phone. And you can check out our recent episodes. We just celebrated our 500th episode with Dax Nielsen from Cheap Trick. We had Nita Strauss, the great guitar player from Alice Cooper. We've also had some great recent shows as well. We welcomed in Chris Voss from the record company. We also talked Jimmy Page, the legacy of Jimmy Page, with our favorite luthier from Hermosa Beach, California, Mike Longacre, and plenty of other shows that we've had throughout the year, like Richie Kotzen. We had Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick as well, and many others. So please check them out and let us know what you think on that. And today's episode is a pretty special one. As I was just telling Brett, before we got on, that I got introduced to this band through my son when he was like 14 or 15 years old. And I had just started this podcast, and he says, "Dad, you got to have these guys on. These guys are like the best band that's out there." And I totally got into them after that. This band is just incredible. And I know I haven't told my son that they're going to be on. I'm just going to surprise him with the episode. So hopefully, as he's away at college, he'll find time to give me a call and text me about the interview that I'm about to do. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome in singer Brett Emmons from the band Glorious Sons. What's happening, man? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. It looks like you're on the road.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Never ends.
Never ends, man. Well, the new album Glory came out earlier this month, and it is absolutely fantastic. I was able to sit with it here over the last few weeks, and we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. But first, as we always start every time we have a first-time guest on the show, we ask the same question, and it's the essence of who we are. Just like every rock song has a hook that pulls you in, every rock fan has a moment, whether it's a song, an album, a band, or performance that hook them on rock and roll. What was it for you?
I think it probably was Hell's Bells by AC/DC. I remember as a kid, I had these these toys that I would turn into like wrestling figures. And I put this boombox on for his name was Shocker. And he was the champ. And I would make his walk up song Hell's Bells. So I'd press play and Shocker would walk into the ring. But AC/DC, just like the power of that just blew my mind as a kid. Like I couldn't believe that there was something in the world that was so powerful. And, I grew up thinking that every song had to be about hell and and the devil. And I get up on stage with my brother's band and sing these songs at like family reunions about the devil and hell and stuff. And that was the thing that really, like, before it was Spice Girls and Backstreet Boys, and when I heard AC/DC, there was no going back.
Oh, of course, man. I wonder how many songs in AC/DC's catalog have the title Hell and the title Rock in them.
Yeah, but there's still, the thing is that they're still so amazing. Like that one that they released, I think like 5 years ago, Runaway Train.
Yeah.
That was such an awesome rock song. Like, my God, I think honestly, I don't really know for sure, but Malcolm being gone probably will affect that a little bit, but he's a genius. Like they maintained that style over the years. It was the same thing every time, but it was always so awesome. Like they really had an equation, it seemed, but one that just was always interesting and worked.
It's amazing too. Their last album, Power Up, they used Malcolm's demos or recordings of his rhythm guitars to kind of base their songs around. And it's just a killer album. And, the thing that's so amazing about AC/DC is the simplicity. It's so simple, but if you try to play it, it's difficult to play.
That's the thing.
Hard.
It's in the details. It's all in the details. The way that he plays the rhythm guitar, nobody can play that way. It's all in his hands. And it's highly underappreciated. I got in a fight with a friend. He's fancies himself like a real music, critic. And I was like, dude, AC/DC's, one of the best punk bands ever. Like, if you love punk, then you should love AC/DC, because some of their early stuff with Bon Scott, I mean, what's that song called? Jailbreak?
Yeah.
Jailbreak, that's a freaking punk song. Like, he made it out with a bullet in his back, and we fought all night about it. And then a month later, he came back to me and he was like, "Man, I was wrong about AC/DC."
Well, I mentioned my son at the beginning of the show. He was doing School of Rock, and part of his audition was he had to learn how to play Thunderstruck.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And he's like, he thought the lead was going to be the most challenging thing. And he's like, no, he's like, Malcolm is all on about timing. Like, and the patterns are so like out there, because there really isn't a pattern. It's all on timing, hitting the strings at the right time with the beat. It's so hard to play. He was so frustrated with it.
He plays all his chords a little differently too. There's like a way that he plays them that is a little unique. Steve, our guitarist, was showing me one day, and it makes it like kind of like a really clean but powerful sound.
Yeah, and
they're all kind of, a lot of times they're open too. You couldn't get me to say a bad thing about that band. I think they're one of the greatest bands of all time.
Absolutely. And the thing is that when people say, "Oh, it's just simple, it's no big deal," well, if it's that simple to play and that easy to play, why doesn't everybody do it? Yeah. So where did it go from there? From Hell's Bells in the wrestling intro to here you are now fronting Glorious Sons. How did the path continue for you?
Well, I think like the second band, interesting enough, was Guess Who, a Canadian band. I really kind of like bonded with one of my teachers about Guess Who in public school. Running back through Saskatoon was a big one for me. So, interesting twist there. But I think like to get into this kind of, the way I write music obviously is way different than AC/DC would. I think that the main pillar to that was Jackson Browne. When I first heard Jackson Browne, I was in a band called Stone City Limits back home. And, we wrote a lot of songs about nothing and about growing up. Some of them were about something. Like we had this sweet song called Rags that I still kind of like am impressed that we wrote. But that was about growing up in like a shitty Canadian town. It's actually not that shitty, but when you're a high school kid, you think everything's crap. But when I first heard Jackson Browne, I realized, that rock and roll could be a lot more from the heart, from the soul. And I would look around at all the things in my town and I would listen to his music, and it seemed like he was writing about all the things that I felt and kind of believed like. And it was really the song The Pretender that I would say changed the musical direction of my life, I guess, for lack of a better term. That's when I started kind of, thinking more and wanting to write more about the way that I feel and the things that I think and the things that I see, and be a little more observational, I think.
It definitely affected your writing approach. As far as singing goes, who was some of your influences?
So when I got invited to join a band in high school, I immediately put on Lane Staley, and I tried to sing. I put on The Rooster, and I tried to sing The Rooster over and over again because I always had a naturally raspy voice, but I wanted to kind of like really pull out the power in my voice, and that was pretty hard, to be honest. I never quite got there, but they ended up kicking me out, and then I put on a song called Wheat Kings by the Tragically Hip, and I just sang that. I sang that song for about 6 months until my voice started sounding better to myself. But, the classic singers for me were, Lane Staley, Robert Plant. Like, it was a lot of the classic guys that I really, truly, fell in love with early on. Not really that they necessarily, that shows in my voice, I don't think, really. But, a lot of the classic rock guys. Bob Seger's one of my favorites.
You mentioned Bob Seger's, the vocal approach and Jackson Browne's writing approach. And Bob Seger has a lot of observational approach to his, and storytelling too, as well, to his writing, whether it's Night Moves or Against the Wind or Turn the Page, whatever it is. When you think about those two in the writing sense and how you write, and you mentioned that you became more observational, do you kind of stay in that observational window or bubble, or do you write things about personal stuff or what someone else is going through, or perspective, or do you like to stay in that observational?
Well, it's really like you just get hit by a light. To be honest, for myself, I just kind of do it constantly. I'm always thinking about it, and I don't really necessarily know when it's going to come or where it's coming from. There's no real equation for me. It's just something that I kind of have to do. And a lot of the time it's just about me puking up my feelings. And, sometimes it's, there's a song that we have called La Cosa Nostra, an unreleased song. It's one of my favorites, that it was just a story that I just walked around and you just kind of talk to yourself all day and work out the kinks. And, I've always loved to write. It's one of my favorite things to do. And it's something that a lot of the times just helps me. So, there's no real equation for me. It's just something that I kind of need to do and love to do.
It's kind of a sense of therapy in a way for a lot of people who create and write music, getting your feelings out on paper, or however you do it now on a laptop or iPad or whatever it is. Because as you go through experiences, I mean, I always found that people that write music have a more of a keen sense of awareness of how emotions affect people and impact people because of how it impacts themselves. And when you're writing that stuff and it's kind of therapy, it also helps you gain perspective of maybe something you went through, a long time ago, or you're currently going through now. Does that work for you in terms of getting those emotions out? I mean, you mentioned like you have these things in your head all day, and getting them out on paper and writing it and structuring a song. Does that help you kind of gain a different perspective of what you're going through?
I think for sure it does. Not even just what I'm going through. Like a lot of the times, if you're writing, say, about somebody else, you're kind of trying to unlock the puzzle of someone else. So it'll help you gain a perspective about another person, even. And it's something they don't even have to tell you because you're sitting around trying to solve these puzzles, right? That's what kind of writing a lot of the time is, at least writing in the form of songs, because, you've got a very short window to say a lot. So in a way it works like a short story or like a haiku or, a poem in a sense where you want to leave the biggest impact on somebody that you can in a short period of time. And, to be honest, I'm not really necessarily like the greatest melody writer, but I'm very good, I think, at like, thinking. I really am good at like trying to make people think and then kind of like unlocking exactly what you say, like that feeling of perspective and just putting weight on things that maybe people don't always necessarily think about.
You said something really important there in terms of writing about how a song is usually 3 to 5 minutes long, and you've got to get your thoughts out very quickly and to the point. However, behind those words is a lot of thought of what you're writing about and in the experience, and how you have to shape those thoughts into a song and be very concise. And the words are important to get your point across. How do you filter that through with the thought process of what you want to write about to what you put on paper?
Well, a lot of the times it comes with it'll start a stream of consciousness, and then the editing process is when you start kind of filtering it out. Because it's kind of stifling if you start thinking too much right away. You can really kind of just screw the whole process up in that way. But yeah, it starts with stream of consciousness, and then you start to kind of be a little more responsible with it, I guess. And you start to think about really what you're trying to get at. And, you also kind of have to, I guess be responsible with what you're saying, because you don't want to look back on a song and hate it. And that means that it should mean something to you in my eyes. Like, I don't like to write things that don't mean anything to me. I've done that before, and I don't really like that feeling of, if how are you going to sing it every night if it really doesn't mean anything to you? And yeah, it should mean something to you. And, it should come from a place of, good faith, and it should be, in my eyes, for myself, it has to kind of like enrich your world a little bit more, I guess.
The new album, Glory, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, came out earlier this month. It's an absolute beautiful record, and just enjoyed listening to it. It's one that you just want to keep listening to. As you guys approach this album versus what you guys have done in the past, was there any differences in how you wanted to approach the music with this album?
Oh, I think there was a ton. This one took a long time to kind of work out because, it's already hard enough because we try to do something kind of like different each time and kind of keep ourselves on our toes. And, really, it's maybe not even about trying to do something different, but we kind of have to in a way, I guess. Um, and so that's already hard enough. But I think also going, through COVID, there wasn't a lot to write about. So, um, it wasn't a very inspiring time, I wouldn't say, for the guys. So it took a minute, but I think the approach was just a lot more personal from me, which put a lot of pressure on the guys because they could kind of see me struggling personally with this. And I didn't really want a lot of help early on with it. The approach was just kind of like dig deep and write about yourself and get this stuff out on paper and work it out, and kind of like that therapy thing we were talking about, but kind of like times 1,000, I would say. So that was pretty big approach. And then the other thing was kind of trying to like form the musicality of it. We've done a lot of like really hard hitting stuff, and we've worn kind of the meat and potatoes hat before and whatnot. We wanted to be more ambitious on this one, and the musicality mattered a lot more to me. Finding the right chords in the right place and trying to piece together kind of more of an art piece that would kind of move people with the music at the same time as the words. So that was also quite a bit to work out. But it ended up working really well, and I'm very proud of the album. I think it's probably my proudest as far as our catalog over the years. So
I found the same thing with your music on this album too. I always like when lyrics and the music create a mood.
Yeah.
And the lyrics reflect the music. And I found that to be very strong with this record. Listening to the arrangements and the music, the way it was laid out with the lyrics over and the singing over it. I felt like it really was, like you said, more artistic than it was maybe previously, where it was kind of like the full body of music. And you mentioned that it was hard to create because of the pandemic. There wasn't a lot going on. So how does a band who kind of relies on personal experience, and when we're all going through this pandemic, the personal experiences are kind of few and far between, except for sitting around doing nothing. How do you find that within yourselves as a band, as you as a writer, to like you said, dig deep, because that had to be a struggle, like you mentioned.
It was really, really hard. Honestly, there was never gonna be like, I have to write anyways. So if you're writing songs all the time and you've got nothing to do already, you're gonna write more songs. More so, it was about trying to unlock, like trying to get past that fear of like talking about like myself as openly as possible, to be honest, was the real hard thing. And it was just about kind of going down and really kind of digging up some of these things in the past and the way that I felt, and trying to organize them, and trying to speak a little bit kinder to myself. And I think one of the, thankfully, and probably wouldn't have worked if not, I think during that time, the one thing that we were provided was a lot of time to work on ourselves and kind of think about ourselves. I think everybody was. So that's kind of was the natural progression of the way the music started turning. I wrote so many songs, and 98% of them, I'll never look back on again. But the ones that stuck through that period, were the ones that had meaning. And to be honest, most of the meaning was coming from, the stories of, say, me and my family and, my closest friends and whatnot, because that's who that's who I could rely on during that period.
When the band's recording this album and coming together to put it all together, when did you guys realize with the music and the lyrics and creating this atmosphere that you did on Glory, when did you realize that you were hitting on something? Like, this was it. This is what you were searching for.
I think for everybody it would be maybe different. I think like when we finally brought our producer back, Frederick, from Copenhagen, when some of the restrictions had released and we'd, for lack of a better term, failed so many times. Frederick came to my house and we started working. I could just see everybody's eyes lighting up in that period. For myself, I felt like I really started kind of like crafting the story and understanding what was happening with the album about 7 months earlier, when I actually finished a therapy session, which is embarrassing to admit. And we were talking about stream of consciousness, and like, you know, and trying to get back and working that muscle kind of freely. And I just started writing like immediately afterward. And I was just kind of like speaking the words and Glory came out. And I looked at it. I didn't really necessarily know what it was about. And then I kind of like looked at the words and I was like, this is the story of our band. Like this, it's kind of metaphorical, but to me, I could tell that it was the story of our band. And I felt like when I hit on that, I knew like, okay, things are going to be okay. You know, everything's going to be all right. I've kind of found that little crack of light to run toward. And that opened everything up for me.
When it did open up, like you said, you know, and it was kind of stagnant with creativity because of the situation. Did it feel like a floodgate opening up? Like there were avenues of creating and writing and you know, lyrical content that was coming fast and it was coming like it was all built up and just waiting for something like this to release it.
Well, yes, for sure. Like, because as a writer, like I can be quite, I can run in spurts quite a bit. So yeah, like in a period like that, I can't really remember now, but a lot of the times I'll go through like these 2 week periods of just like, you know, very efficient, a lot of songs, you know, and I'll just get them out and it'll just be kind of this crazy chase. But the thing that actually Glory did was it also put some perspective to like some, like 2 or 3 older songs or maybe 4 older songs that I'd written. It gave a whole new perspective to those stories that I didn't have, and it put more meaning into those songs. And I was able to bring them back and kind of frame them in a new light and kind of just work on the whole story of what I was talking about. Like that being Cosmic Beam was one of them. Speed of Light was one of them. Yeah. So it definitely is. It's like a floodgate opening up, but it's kind of like for me, this mad dash to get whatever's inside me out, as fast as possible, and as much as possible, you know, like 12 hours will go by and I'll have like, you know, 20 messages on my phone and everything that I was supposed to do, I didn't do. And, you know, that'll happen for like 2 weeks for me. But yeah.
Is this why, when you talk about the struggle of putting this album together, is this why when you made the statement earlier in the interview that like this is the work you're most proud of because you know where it came from and you know how the band kind of had to fight through to get to this point?
Definitely a part of it. Yeah, I think I drove a lot of my band members pretty crazy during this period. So yeah, I'm definitely proud of all of us, the way that we kind of like rallied around, but I'm also just proud of, we didn't stop, you know, there was never really like any thought of stopping. There was nobody complained about COVID, you know, nobody like nobody was sitting there whining about this stuff. We just kept on going, and it really did hurt at times. There was periods where I couldn't even look at a guitar. I look, and it just kind of showed how resilient we are and how much we want to do this. And I think everybody really came together and supported one another in the end. It's a very, very hard time, I think, for a lot of people, and it was hard to be in a band too.
A lot of times artists look at an album as kind of like a diary entry of their life and their career, however long it spans. And, now that Glory is complete and it's out for public consumption, how do you look at that diary entry when you think of this album?
I think that, I think it's a really, really good indicator of, I guess, maybe growth in a way. I don't feel like I did 2 or 3 years ago. I don't feel like the guy that I used to feel like, and I'm definitely a lot more kind to myself, and I think I made it out of the last 3 or 4 years in a much better way than I was before. And I don't necessarily know, exactly all the details on that necessarily, like why or how or whatever, but things just seem a lot more steady and lighter. And I think that, if you were to go listen to War and Everything, if you listen to like Wild Eyes, Wild Eyes is a good indicator. There's a lot of like, darkness in a lot of that stuff, which, is definitely, there's a side to me that I'll never lose, that's part of me, in that way. But I really think I couldn't keep on, feeling so nihilistic and angry for myself, anymore. And I think that Glory, the album, is kind of a good indicator of, that, I didn't want to put that shit out into the world anymore. And maybe I will want to again, who knows? But, at this point in my life, I needed to figure out myself, and I got single, and I got, happy in the mundane life, the mundane parts of life. And I think that was a really important thing, for me to figure out, because, all through from 19 till 29 or 28, I was on a tour bus basically. And I'd come home and the silence would just murder me, like just absolutely murder me. And, sometimes I'd go to the bar for a month, and just self-medicate that way. So that forced pause was really good for me. And I think it was good for the band in a way too. And that would be the way I look at that diary entry, with just a lot of self-growth.
Yeah, with self-growth, it comes personal evolution, right? I mean, it becomes like a change of who you are. And, listening to you talk about this album and the process pre and during and now that it's released, it seems like at the beginning of this album, when you started to create it, you were a completely different person than you are at the end of this album. And that's a pretty cool thing to kind of have that evolution happen over a span of time like that.
Yeah. 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 Completely different. Maybe not, but I am a different person for sure. Like, I definitely feel different than I did. And it feels much better to feel this way than it did the other way.
Well, moving forward too, I mean, I know you guys just released this album, but you also have to have a sense of excitement that this personal growth and evolution happened, because I think it can also elevate an artist like yourself into like another level of creativity, like another door has been opened that maybe you couldn't get to a couple years ago.
Yeah. I think that there's like, the doors are all around you all the time. Like I really do. And it's kind of just about how comfortable you feel in opening them. Yeah, like to me, I don't know necessarily what the next album is going to be about or what it's going to necessarily represent. But if you're just kind of like writing all the time and open to the experience, it will present itself. There's no doubt about that. There's no shortage of things that anybody could write about in their own lives. That people, I think, genuinely are better off to hear. Whether that's even just a family member, but I think people need humans to write for humans. They really do need that. It brings a value to us that I don't think can be overstated. We need to kind of have voices that we can relate with and try to understand the struggle that it's a really mundane life is. It's really most of the time our problems present themselves as like these little like pinpricks all day long, and we need a voice to go to, and I have my voices and that I go and listen to, and hopefully we can provide that for some people too.
That's really where the connection to the art form of music is for people who can't, and maybe even people who can, but struggle to find the words to describe a situation or an emotion, can always find a song that perfectly describes it, right? And
yes,
and that's why people want to share music with other people, because they want people to hear what songs speak for them.
Yes,
and it's such a powerful thing. And you need to have that too as an artist. And it's kind of like for you as a creator and also a fan, it's kind of like a full circle of life within the music, between the life of music and being in music.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't like generally listen to a lot of music. Like I won't like go searching out a ton of music, but when I find something, it speaks to me and I delve into it deeply. Like I look to it for support in my life. And it's a very important thing, I think. And like there's a song called I Don't Live Here Anymore by the War on Drugs that like absolutely there's no doubt, and I think that everybody can say this about a song. It changed my life 2 years ago. Like it just made my life easier to live. And that is an unbelievable thing that we have something that can do that. And it's not something that, sitting here on a tour bus, traveling across the country that I'll ever take for granted again. I have before in my life, but it's just it's a beautiful life to be able to live. It is.
As you guys now are touring and supporting this album, what are the plans for the band in terms of being on the road and for the foreseeable future?
Number one, we have to survive. Touring is about survival. That's what my friend John Angus told me early in my career. And he's remained right all this time. Sitting here at 31 on a tour bus is a lot different than it was 25. I felt like you could literally take a sledgehammer to my throat and I would wake up and be able to sing the next day. Now it's kind of, I'm just learning over the past year and a bit, like things are a little more tedious, and it's interestingly enough, the more healthy you live off of tour, the harder it is to tour because you're in a tour bus. So waking up at 7 a.m, you're going to bed at, 1 o'clock. You're only getting 6 hours of sleep, which is not very good for a singer. Like you need a ton of sleep, in order for your voice to kind of regenerate and be healthy. So yeah, number one, it's survival for us, I think. at this point, which we're doing pretty good. It's been actually one of my favorite tours so far, but it's been a learning experience to say the least. And then after that, you know, same thing as always, 57 shows, get home, write, hang out with my dog Shambles, and, you know, try to start putting the pieces together for another album. It's pretty simple.
You mentioned 57 dates. Is there any possibility it could be longer based on the album, or is it just pretty much you have a cycle that you guys are set with?
We have a cycle. It's just, we'll probably end up going out on tour in the spring too. And what that looks like, I don't know for sure yet. You know, these album cycles can span anywhere from, you know, a year to, you know, 3 or 4 years, to be honest. I think like the Young Beauties album cycle really was a 4-year experience, because Shotgun kind of started taking off 8 or 9 months after the album had been released. So it kind of breathed a whole new life. And, you know, we ended up in Australia, we ended up in Europe. We went back into the States and we did another Canadian run. It was just kind of this crazy ride, but you never really know with that stuff. I think at this point, it's probably pretty important to stay responsible with that kind of thing. Because you can really burn yourself out. And I think we did burn ourselves out on that album cycle, you know? But yeah, take it as it comes and, you know, just keep writing. I think that's pretty much the main thing.
Yeah, you know, hopefully at some point you get to Chicago here. I know you guys have been through before, but you know, always enjoy.
I think we're coming actually to Chicago soon. Packer, when are we in Chicago? Like 6 days? The 25th. So like, what is it today?
It's a Monday.
I don't know. Monday.
Monday.
Mondays.
I know.
Yeah.
I got. I gotta make sure I can make that, because that would be awesome.
We'll get you on the guest list for sure.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Brett. It's been a blast talking with you, learning more about you, learning more about the band and the music. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. This was really fun.
Awesome. Everyone, that is Brett Emmons from the band Glorious Sons. Check out their new album, Glory, out this past September 6th. You will enjoy it. It's a fantastic record. I'm Jay Scott. This is the Hook Rocks, the Ultimate Rock Community Podcast. Take care of each other. Stay safe, and we will talk soon. Thank you.
What happens next? Tell me a story. Put on an accent. Give it some glory in a British rain that makes you feel insane. Makes you feel human to inflict your own pain. Hey, what's your deal? Come on, who cares? The elevator's waiting. Why would we take the stairs? Take it right on to the top and let your soul fly. It's such a pretty view. Just don't ask yourself why. Are we just a few spirits starting to lose our hope? Tick-tock, open your window, undo the law. Who needs to cry? I know I do. Will you help me realize my pain is true? Forgive yourself, well, you still can.
Summer is calling. And your favorite artists are at Wolf Trap. Tickets on sale at wolftrap.org.